From Central Indiana's #1 news source, this is Fox 59 Tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us here on Fox 59 Tonight. I'm Cameron Ridle. We appreciate you downloading our brand new Fox 59 Now app on your smart TV. If you don't have it, you can find it on your Roku, Fire TV, or Apple TV. And, of course, we are on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there. Either way, we appreciate you for watching. We're here every night at 8 o'clock talking about what's happening in and around Indy. Today, we're going to talk about the news, journalism, public relations. It's ahead of a big evening that we're having this Friday in Indianapolis with the Indianapolis Association of Black Journalists. We're having a Meet the Media night so that you can come, meet us, meet people who write the stories, that produce the stories, that read the stories on TV, that report the stories in your community, so that one, you know how the process works, but two, how you can get your stories told. There are a lot of people who are behind the scenes that are a part of the process. It's not always the voices you hear just on the radio or the faces you see on TV. There's a whole team of people who make the decisions about the news of the day. And I'm in good company today in the studio with people who know that very well. Konah Williams is our secretary at the Indianapolis Association of Black Journalists. She has the hardest job of our team. I know, because I did it for 4 years and I don't want to do it ever again. So Konah, thank you for your service in advance.
Yes.
And Lamar Holiday is a man of many hats, such as myself. But in this case, not only is he the owner of the Holiday Collaborative, an award-winning company, which we'll learn about, but he is also the PR liaison at the Indianapolis Association of Black Journalists. And both of them are in our studio, as you see. I gotta do a weird-looking thing, so I'm gonna be looking over here because I had to move my computer over here. So. We'll try to keep this as a conversation just with us in these three Brady Bunch boxes things. We're having some technical difficulties today. So first, who wants to tell us? Meet the Media. It's coming up this Friday. We're going to be at the Skyline Club. Who's got all the details handy? Konah, you got it memorized, don't you?
I got it memorized. Yeah, we are going to be at the Skyline Club. Doors open at 5:30. Event starts at 6. This is our largest fundraiser of the year. All of the money that we raise go towards scholarships for students who are entering journalism, PR, communications. As you know, that field is under attack and quickly becoming underfunded. So we feel like it is our duty to help people who want to go into those fields be able to get the education that they need. Everybody's got a mic in front of them today.
Yes, they do.
So we want to make sure those people who have mics are properly trained, especially our Black and brown journalists who are often underserved and overlooked. So yeah, our event Meet the Media is this Friday, and we will have a silent auction. We'll have a fireside chat. We will have good food, good drinks, and a lot of networking too for community members who want to learn how to meet journalists and get their stories on air. So whether it's a small business or a nonprofit, they can come out and meet everybody who gets the stories on the air.
Lamar, you know a lot of people. You've been on both sides of the camera as a reporter and an anchor, and now literally your job is to connect people and get their stories told with your company. Tell us about the importance of what Konah just mentioned, which is knowing people.
Yeah, knowing people is very, very important. I believe that every business, every person has a story, right? And sometimes those stories can really make a difference to people, to other businesses, to whomever you're trying to reach. So knowing people in different spaces and making those connections can really help push people's missions forward. Help meet the needs of the community. There's so many vast things that can happen just from knowing a lot of people and making those connections.
In your line of work, do people, at first, before I get there, explain what it is you do?
Yes. So public relations. So essentially public relations, it's in kind of three different things, right? So you have public relations, you have communications, you have marketing. A lot of times, a lot of people put that all under one roof. And I can understand why, because they kind of have similar goals, but they achieve different things differently. On the public relations side, it's more about protecting the brand, protecting the reputation,
Mm-hmm.
also getting the word out about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at communications, it's about how are you communicating with people? What's the tone? What are the words that you're using? How is it being perceived? And then we look at marketing. Marketing is about trying to get people to buy into what you're selling, whether that's a product, a program, an initiative. It's all about getting buy-in. And so we do a little bit all three of those things here at the Holiday Collaborative Agency. Um, but the best part in all of that, they all have one thing in common, and it's just connecting people. When you connect people, like I mentioned, you're changing lives, you're changing communities, and you're making sure that people again have the right connections to further their missions and what they do.
So, um, Lamar, I ask you that to explain what it is that you do, so that people can understand why I'm going to ask this question. Um, do people think, okay, I know Lamar, I'm going to tell him my story. Lamar's going to get it on every TV station and radio station in town. Like, boom. Is that what they think? And is that how that works?
No, that's not how that works.
Mhm.
For the most part, when we come in, we meet with our clients and we meet with people and we try to find the story. The thing about it is that of course everyone has a story, but the story has to have certain elements
Mhm.
that resonates with not only with news people but for the people that they're going to deliver that story to. And so where we come in is we help people find what is that story, who's the element of that story, how do we tell that story, and essentially we will be able to pitch that and know exactly what the reporters and anchors what they're looking for. Um, but pitching to media is like a sliver of what we do, because we also help people tell their stories through social media. So there's so many different ways that we can help tell your story. But again, the media, mass media, is a great way to kind of get it out in front of more people in a quicker time frame.
Well, we've got Konah here, who's quite the innovator because we're doing this streaming thing in 2025. And I'm sure Konah would be proud to tell you that she had this idea, was leading it at another station, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah,
Mm.
2020, 2021.
Pandemic time, COVID time. Um, and where I'm going with this is the evolving of this industry has led us to doing shows like this on streaming app and online, different places. But that's where that was one chapter of your television news career. But through that time, you've been a producer in multiple markets, been behind the scenes, and you
Hmm.
are one of the many people who are behind the scenes that people don't see, and that the
Yeah.
stories have to get passed to get on there. So talk about how the the news is done. How's the sausage made? Because actually, when y'all walked in earlier, they were doing the 9:30 editorial
Mhm.
meeting that everybody loves to go to.
Yeah, I remember those.
Absolutely
Mhm.
sarcasm. But that's kind of where that's where the day starts, right?
Yeah, so as a producer, it is my job to kind of run and steer the ship, right? I work with the anchors, I work with the reporters to figure out what is that story. So, like Lamar said, everybody does have a story, but not every story needs to be told on TV. Sometimes you can tell your story in a newspaper and get the point across better. Sometimes it needs to be in your own internal newsletter. Sometimes it needs to be on social media, right? So, as a producer, I kind of go through all of those pitches from PR firms, from community members, from calls into the newsroom, from things we hear, just in a variety of different ways, and figure out what's really going to be most important to people and most impactful. And part of what I loved about being a producer is finding those hidden gems and being able to tell those community stories in a different way, especially when we started our streaming on the other station. I was able to tell longer form stories or dig a little bit deeper. I did, the evening news. So you hear stuff throughout the day, all throughout the day. How can I tell a little bit different and with a little bit more detail, later in the day part. So that is kind of how a producer works. We work with everybody in the newsroom and outside of the newsroom to get stories on air.
Konah, something I find is weird, and we all do it, and I don't know why. 'Cause why don't we ever say the other station? Like even I started, and I didn't say it's like the other station. It was Channel 6 where we
It
used to
was.
work.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Why. I don't know who made up that rule. Like
Yeah.
this other place that
Yeah.
mysteriously is down the street
Yeah.
that you used to know me at.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's
my
all right.
career started here.
Yes, do
Yeah.
tell. Do tell.
Yeah.
Welcome home.
Yeah. Thank you. It's good to be home. I was a morning show associate producer. So I was doing everything from the 4:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Just hustling hard here.
I think your login might still work if you want to get that.
No, that's okay. I also did the lottery here. I did, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's how I started.
I've been wondering what goes on in that secret room that's locked
Yeah.
away behind a key. They don't let anybody in.
I'll tell you for a fee.
So, well, yes, welcome home. But
Yeah.
as you've seen, you've been around, and I wanted people to understand that it's not just I'm going to tell Cameron and then my story gets on there, or I'm going to tell Konah and my story gets on there,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm going to tell Lamar and my story gets on there. It is this whole process. Now, what helps you is if you know Lamar and Cameron, or if you know Lamar and Konah, or if you know all three.
Yeah.
Which is why you should come to the Meet the Media event on Friday at the Skyline Club, so that you can build these connections. Now, even still, we have all had it to where we've had our story picked out for the day and plans, and then there's breaking news.
Mm-hmm.
And then that story gets turned into a 20-second story or it doesn't make the air.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just as frustrating to us as it would be for you. And we've carved out a time to tell a story. Sometimes the stories aren't shot, and it's like, oh yeah, we'll air that later.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that is part of the cycle of news. So, we'll also explain that to you all as well on Friday. Um, Everything that we've done could be blown out of the water. Sometimes our entire newscast could get blown out of the water if like just the other day, they announced a pope and the white smoke. I guess no, it would be black smoke.
White smoke.
It was white smoke.
Yep.
Excuse me. White smoke came out. It was black smoke at first. Then the white smoke came out right before our noon newscast. So then the networks cut in, and the producer, in your case, Konah, who had been working on that show since 4 o'clock in the morning, never aired because the network took over. And then that's one of those you can do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it airs later in the day, and hopefully it's a quiet day, and we can get that story back in there.
But that's also why it's good to have shows like this, right? Because then you can watch on the digital platform and your story's being told that way.
Very careful, Konah. They might ask you to come back.
It sounds like she wants to come back.
Don't put that on me.
We might be able to find a place for her. So let's talk about Indianapolis Association of Black Journalists. It is one of multiple chapters around the country, and I do mean multiple. A lot of people may hear of the National Association of Black Journalists. That's the overarching organization that we are all part of, and every year we go to the big convention, which this year is in Cleveland. So journalists and PR folk, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, network executives, down to your reporter looking for their first job. That's my favorite part about it. Is that everybody is pretty much an equal at this event. Like there's no like hierarchy. Like, oh no, you've got to be in the business for X amount of years to talk to this person, or let alone be in the same room with this person. You could literally be fresh out of Ball State, and you're in the elevator with the president of CBS News, and boom, now you've made a connection. So that's why I like it. On top of it being, as everybody calls it, the big family reunion.
That's right.
Where people who you worked with years ago show up, and it's like old times. Um, but which, by the way, it's in Cleveland this year. Y'all going?
I am.
I will be there.
I have not committed to go.
Oh, come on, Cameron. Come
I
on.
don't know.
It's right there.
It's right there,
It
Right
is
there.
right down the street.
I did Chicago
Right.
last year. That was easy.
Hmm.
Straight up. That was the first time I've ever got to drive. So that was like the cheapest
Mm.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most expensive one would have either, well, I think it would have been Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas was the most
Mm-hmm.
expensive for
Because
sure.
it's Vegas. However,
Yeah.
it was the most fun.
I could
Vegas
see
was
that.
fun.
I could see
Vegas was a
that.
good time.
I kind of missed out on that one, but that's okay.
You missed out on that
I
one?
did.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was when I was like, yeah, I think
Yeah.
we got to go to this.
Yeah.
Miami was fun. I did not partake in any beach activities, but it was still fun.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Montgomery, Alabama.
I heard that was
I
interesting.
heard that one was interesting as well. I did not make it to that one.
Yeah, see how the word changed from the word changed from fun to interesting. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a time. It
Yeah.
was different. I did learn a lot about
Yeah.
Montgomery, Alabama.
Mm.
Hmm.
I would say if anyone, like, there's always room to party, and there was still a party in Montgomery.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people went to, like, they had some like bus tours over to
Yeah.
Selma,
Mm.
different things. So it was far more vocational,
Yeah.
if you will. People got to learn a lot
Yeah.
more. With that said, it's not all just parties, not all just family reunions, but this organization and our local chapter works to elevate and bring everybody together.
Hmm.
And it's not just for Black journalists. We
Right.
also team up regularly with the
Mhm.
National Hispanic Association of, what I said, right? National Association of Hispanic Journalists,
Hmm.
NAHJ, and others. And then other chapters, Society of Professional Journalists, the list goes on and on.
Mhm.
What would you say, Konah? Because you're deep in the roots, you're in the trenches of IABJ. What's the most
Yeah.
special thing about it to you?
I think the most special thing about it is that I came into journalism a little bit later in life. I've had 16 different careers in my life. Um, and you join it, and it's just immediately a community of people who are like-minded, who face your same struggles in the newsroom. um, Indianapolis is diverse, but not as diverse as it could be. And so having a community of people who look like you and experience things like you, and then just like you can be yourself with, that is the most special thing to me about our chapter specifically. I mean, that's how we all got to be friends,
Mhm.
through IABJ. And so our chapter is here. We are, in a rebuilding year, rebuilding stages. And so we really want to be there for journalists to provide community, to provide that support, and also advocate. Newsrooms are hard. It's hard reporting on the stuff that we report on day in and day out.
Mhm.
And then also, too, just facing you might be the only Black face in the newsroom. So let me talk to my friend over at Fox 59 and see if they've experienced the same thing. Let me talk to my friend over at THR and see if they're experiencing the same thing. And that's kind of how IABJ came about, is people from different newsrooms came together and said, hey, we're all experiencing the same thing. Let's advocate for one another. Let's make sure that we can get fair treatment in this newsroom. Um, so that just is that's the best part about it, I think.
Mhm.
What about you, Lamar?
I mean, Kona pretty much hit it on nail on the head. It's all about community, especially that advocacy part. Being a former journalist, there have been plenty of times where I've been in my newsroom trying to advocate for stories in our Black and Brown communities, and sometimes, being the only Black person in the newsroom, it's hard to advocate for that because this producer or executive producer don't know anything about that community, don't live in that community. And so kind of having that community with IABJ and kind of just the local chapters, having that community and advocacy really makes a difference. And sometimes that's how you're able to see a lot of these stories about our community, is because a lot of these local chapters are advocating for these stories and also advocating for these journalists. A lot of these journalists are coming under fire, especially our Black and Brown, especially during this challenging time. And our organization is so important more now than ever, to make sure that not only we're keeping our journalists on the front lines, but we continue to tell those stories and let these stories be told.
Like I said, the thing for me is that it puts everybody in the same room. So I joined as a member of IABJ back when I was in high school. So then I'm in the room at the time with Andrea Moorhead, Erica Fly,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Big
Legends.
dogs.
Legends.
the OGs, the legends, the icons, Cheryl Parker,
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Nancy Berry.
goodness. Yes.
Hmm.
I knew these people in high school.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember we were going somewhere, like, I'm in the car with Deanna Dubik. And so, having their phone numbers, and then, they all each became mentors in a way, and then friends, and different things like that. So I just think that's always, for me, the coolest thing is putting everybody in the same room, and everybody's on a level playing field to
Mhm.
be able to help each other. Because I think at
Hmm.
Right.
the end of the day, that's the main goal. We're gonna take a commercial break here in a second, but because Lamar, I want to talk about some of the things that you mentioned, which is about how we're under attack, and we've talked about that quite a bit on this show. We told you last week about how PBS is being defunded,
Mm-hmm.
and NPR, and how it's a double whammy here in the state of Indiana, losing both their federal funding and their state funding. But we're also in a time where I like to start asking journalists this question, and I'll give you a chance to think about it as we go to a commercial break. But is your job to first um, tell an accurate story, or tell a story that has both sides? I think the answer before, when we were in school, they taught you in Journalism 101, was to do both.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you suspect, we always say there's two sides to every story, and somewhere
Mm-hmm.
there's the truth is in there somewhere.
Hmm.
But I think that changed, and I'll tell you when the light bulb went off for me, to where I realized we have to make a decision. And as one general manager told me, every media is supposed to stand in the middle. It's supposed to be in the middle of things. He said, if you keep standing in the middle of the road, at some point you're gonna get hit by a car.
That's it.
Yeah.
So it's like you might want to pick a side. So the case on this is not right or wrong. It's not Republican or Democratic, conservative. The side that I want you all to think about and pick is: are you on the side of telling both sides, or on the side of telling an accurate story?